We've had a couple of testy player interactions this season, but we might have witnessed the most intense one yet this Sunday between Maria Sakkari and Yulia Putintseva. I'll share who I think was right here and discuss the actual results from this past weekend and what they mean for Wimbledon coming up in less than a week. Hello, my name is Christian Bass Knight and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more content. So delving right into the drama, Maria Sakkari opened her Bad Homburg tournament with a hard-fought 7-5, 7-6 win over Yulia Putintseva. It's been a season to forget for Putintseva, who falls to 15-16 in 2025. She didn't give the warmest handshake to Sakkari at the net after she lost, but it wasn't that bad in my opinion. But it wasn't good enough for Maria, though, who said something that couldn't be picked up. Putintseva gave a sarcastic bow and Maria said, "Just be like a human being." Yulia replied, "I was a human being. Look at yourself." I think that's what she said. Maria tried to check her and she walked over to Yulia, who said, "Leave me alone." They went back and forth for a little bit and Putintseva said something that provoked Sakkari to double back and say,
"Nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. You can be here when you shake hands. Thank you very much."
They also had a bit of a back and forth as Yulia exited the court. Now here's what Sakkari said in her post-match on-court interview.
Did she invite you for dinner or what happened?
I don't think she's going to invite me for dinner for the rest of our lives. So, but I don't care, to be honest. I have very good friends, and I'll go to dinner with them. So let me leave it. Let me leave it here and just say that I have respect for her as a player. But that's it.
Yulia hit back on her Instagram stories this morning, first reposting this video that highlights Sakkari not giving the best handshakes previously. Then Putintseva put her own message saying, "By the way, not that I care, I shook her hand as most women do. Clearly not according to the hugging protocol some men seem to follow." I saw that a lot of people were on Sakkari's side in this whole ordeal, and I think much of that has to do with Putintseva not having the best reputation among fans. And a lot of people still remember her whole incident with the US Open ball girl and her kind of catching an attitude and not like actually cooperating and getting the balls herself. And then even aside from that, though, she's had some dramatic and interesting moments on court with other players, and she just doesn't have the best reputation of having the best attitude, simple as that. However, I am Team Yulia in this situation, and it's not because Sakkari tried to check me on Twitter that one time, but Putintseva, like she even said herself, didn't even give that bad of a handshake. It's not like she just slapped her hand. She's given worse handshakes before. So I just think that Maria was doing way, way too much. And again, I'm on Yulia's side because I already lost a tough 2.5-hour match and you're trying to start drama with me? Like, go sit down somewhere. Like, you're being ridiculous. Like, Yulia actually didn't do enough in my opinion, because if you tried to do all that, I would have said some nastier things. And Sakkari doesn't necessarily give the warmest handshakes herself. So I don't know why she's trying to act like Mother Teresa. And you've had other players, even aside from Putintseva, you've had players like Ostapenko give like Azarenka much worse handshakes, but Vika didn't do all of that. I think it's really because Maria hasn't been used to winning as much lately. This is just her 6th top 50 win of the season, and I guess she expects everybody to give her the warmest handshake and kiss the ring whenever she beats them, but no. Like, I think she needs to remember that players are still going to be a little bit salty after losing, just like she has been in the past. And again, Yulia's handshake wasn't even all that bad, and I'm sure that Yulia isn't the most favorite in the locker room, but she does have friends on the tour, so that whole "nobody likes you" is false, because she is friends with the likes of Sabalenka, Rybakina, and some other players too. Now, moving away from the drama and talking about the actual results, Marketa Vondrousova won her first title since she won Wimbledon in 2023, outlasting China's Jingyu Wang 7-6, 4-6, 6-2 in the final of Berlin. Marketa entered the tournament ranked 164th, so that makes her the lowest ranked champion in the tournament's history. The first set of this final really decided the outcome for real, and if we're being honest, Wang should have won it. Wang served for the first set twice, first at 5-3 and then at 6-5, and she also led 6-2 in the tiebreaker, so she had 4 set points in a row, but she wasn't able to close it. She also had 2 more set points after that in the breaker, but it was Vondrousova who converted on her 3rd set point. Credit to Wang, though, for being able to recover and take the 2nd set, but the 3rd set was just still one-sided in Marketa's favor. I think this proved to everyone that Vondrousova completely deserved that Wimbledon 2023 title. She beat 3 top 15 players in Keys, Schneider, and of course the world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka. And that win over Sabalenka showed to me that she probably would have beaten Aryna had they played in the Wimbledon finals back in 2023, as Sabalenka was very close to beating Jabeur in the semifinals of that year. I think what makes Vondrousova so tough on grass, first, her slice lefty serve, especially on these low bouncing court, it's tough for opponents. And she's also able to take advantage of that serve well with effective +1s. She's also just very crafty. She slices frequently, which is just even more effective on the low bouncing grass. She also has great hands at net. So, of course, volleying aids you also on the grass. Now, the reason why I said that she proves that she deserves the Wimbledon title is because people had been talking ill on her name. There have been a few, how did Marketa Vondrousova even win Wimbledon in the first place tweets coming out, but she showed again that she is a very much well-deserved champion. Many times when she suffers poor results, it's because she's injured. After Wimbledon last year, she underwent surgery on her left shoulder. She returned in January of this year, but a thigh injury forced her to retire in the second round of Adelaide against Schneider, which also forced her to pull out of the Australian Open. Vondrousova went 3-3 in the Middle East, but her shoulder issue injury flared up again, so she didn't play again until Roland Garros of this year. And there she looked solid. She had Pegula on the ropes in round 3, and now she's back and winning titles. And I think she's going to be a real big, dangerous dark horse for Wimbledon. She's ranked 73 in the world, so she will be unseeded, and nobody will want to see her in their section at all. And I'm going to be intrigued to see which top seed, or if a top seed, will draw her in either round 1 or round 2. I think one of her biggest obstacles in preventing her from going deep at Wimbledon once again is her own body and her health and her shoulder just being able to hold up, as she did play quite a few matches this week and she still has that shoulder strapping on her shoulder. I already talked about Coco and her loss to Wong earlier last week. Building on that, I think her loss was vindicated a little bit more, seeing as how Wong went on to make the final and was low-key close to taking the whole title. I think it's still going to be really, really hard for me to pick a favorite for Wimbledon on the women's side at least. Our 2 500 champions will be unseeded going into the championships. I just think the grass season is just way too short, to be honest, and that's why we've had these rather surprised Wimbledon champions the past few years. I think that Sabalenka still will be the favorite, as she does seem to play well on grass, plus she's performed well at Wimbledon in the past. We haven't really seen much of her, to be honest, due to her not playing last year due to injury, and then plus she wasn't able to play in 2022 due to the ban. I think that Rybakina, she should be a top favorite, but her biggest question mark is mental, because she seems to struggle in the big moments against the big players, namely her losses against Iga Roland Garros and this loss against Sabalenka in Berlin, despite her holding 4 match points in a row and still losing. Now, moving on and talking about the men, Carlos Alcaraz, he extends his career longest win streak to 18 after picking up a gritty 7-5, 6-7, 6-2 win over Yulia Putintseva in the Queen's Club Finals. This marks Carlos's 3rd straight title, and this was his 5th straight final he competed in, and he has been the undisputed best player in the world for the past few months, and he's gone 27-1 since losing in the second round of the Miami Open. Alcaraz was a big favorite on paper coming into this final, but I knew that Yuri would cause him problems, as he beat Alcaraz in their previous meeting in the Doha quarterfinals this year. Putintseva also beat some quality players, including Gabriel Diallo, Alex de Minaur, and Jack Draper at Queens. Yuri kept it tight and competitive with Carlos for the first 2 sets, but in the end, Alcaraz was just too strong and dominated in the 3rd set. Now, I think Alcaraz's serve was the outlier for him in this match, and really for the last few rounds in this tournament. And he said in his press conference that he wasn't satisfied with his serve after nearly losing to Jaume Munar, and he worked on things in practice to make it more effective. And that definitely worked wonders, as he wasn't broken in his final 3 matches here in London, including in the final where he didn't even face a single break point against Putintseva, and he also slammed down 18 aces. I'm just so impressed by Carlitos in this tournament and his win. And I wasn't even sure if he'd play Queens after that grueling Roland Garros final. And not only Roland Garros, but him winning Monte Carlo and Rome too. And he has some very clutch moments this tournament. He saved a few set points against Adam Walton in the first round. And then in the second round, I thought he was going to be out of here when he played his countryman Munar. And Alcaraz, he came through a tough, nearly 3.5-hour match and recovered from 2-4 down in the third set. And I thought for sure that Jaume was going to win that match. And I really wouldn't have blamed Alcaraz if he kind of threw in the towel and was like, okay, that's enough. Let me just rest and prepare for Wimbledon. But he showed that he has that dog in him, just being able to not only win that match, but go all the way and win the title. So impressive. And I think this title, again, proved that he is really the natural surface king. He already solidified his new King of Clay title with that Roland Garros win, but he's looking at taking the King of Grass crown too, for sure. He's now a 2-time Wimbledon champ and a 2-time Queens champ at only 22 years old. And it's also wild that he's already on 21 titles at just 22 years old. Alcaraz holds a 29-3 record on the grass, which translates to a 90.6 win percentage on the surface. Carlos also has the best career winning percentage on grass of any of the 29 current or former world number ones in ATP rankings history. Alcaraz is already the 2-time defending Wimbledon champion, and I think he's going to be a huge, massive favorite to pull off the three-peat. He's full of confidence riding that win streak, and he, of course, loves Wimbledon, winning it twice in a row. And I really think something clicked for him on serve, too, from Queens. Looking at our other 500 champion in Halle, Alexander Bublik was crowned a 2-time champion in Halle after defeating Daniil Medvedev 6-4, 7-6 in the final. This was Bublik's first career win over Medvedev in 7 meetings. Daniil was vying to win his first title since Rome 2023, and he got some solid wins in Germany this week, including one over world number 3 Alexander Zverev in the semifinals. But Medi will be disappointed by how this final went for him, especially in the end of the first set where he lost the final 12 points in a row. He did have a set point at 5-4 in the second set, but Alex honestly was just too clutch. He saved it with a drop shot winner, and his serve was also his saving grace in the end. Bublik, he really did his big one here. He revealed also that he was kind of considering calling it quits after Wimbledon last year because he just wasn't enjoying it out there, and now he's just stuck it out and he made that dream run to the Roland Garros quarterfinals, and now he picked up another big title in Halle, beating the world number 1 in the process. And it was also impressive that he was able to back up that big win over Sinner and go all the way and win the title, beating some quality opponents, including Khachanov and a few other players. So again, props to Bublik for that. And also shout out to Medvedev. Again, it was a good week for him, and he showed that he still got it. He's not washed totally yet, and I think that he's going to for sure be a threat for Wimbledon, and I can see him make it through to the semifinals there yet again this year. Now, we also got to show some love to Makartney Kessler. She picked up her second title of the year and third overall when she defeated Diana Yastremska 6-4, 7-5 to win the Nottingham 250 title. The American got some real quality wins, including beating the top seed Beatrice Haddad-Maia in round 1, and she also defeated the 2-time defending champion Katie Boulter in the quarterfinals. Kessler honestly is not that good at all on clay, but she's very dangerous otherwise, and I think that it's going to be good for the field that she will at least be seeded at Wimbledon. She just snuck in there, and she will be seeded at 32nd in the world. These are the seedings considering that no other women withdraws from the tournament. Xinyu Wang and Yulia Putintseva are the next 2 to be seeded if we do have more withdrawals from any of the current seeded players. There aren't too many surprises here. Iga slips down to number 8, so she could again meet either Arena or Coco as early as the quarterfinals. There is a possibility that she faces Rybakina in the 4th round too. I think the biggest unseeded threats, courtesy of Venus Goff, are Belinda Bencic, Emma Raducanu, Katie Boulter, Veronika Kudermetova, Tatiana Maria, Danielle Collins, Naomi Osaka, Ons Jabeur, who did look better in Berlin, making the quarterfinals, Marketa Vondrousova. I don't think Maria Sakkari is a threat. No shade, but she just doesn't know how to perform well at the majors. Now, looking at the men's seedings, courtesy of Tennis Updates 25, Arthur Fils, though, and Casper Ruud, they did withdraw from the tournament. Fils struggled with a back injury at Roland Garros, which forced him to withdraw. And then Ruud, he is still dealing with that left knee injury. Jack Draper, he will be seeded number 4. It's the first time he's seeded as top 4, so that's going to be big for him. Daniil Medvedev, he just missed out on a top 8 seeding. He would have been seeded 8, I believe, if he defeated Bublik in that Halle final. Now, I think Grigor Dimitrov and Matteo Berrettini are questionable as they showed some injury concerns recently, and they didn't play any of the grass court lead-up tournaments, if I'm not mistaken. Giovanni Impeci-Petitcard and Nuno Borges are next up in line if either of those guys withdraw from the tournament. Looking at some unseeded threats, Hubert Hurkacz, I mean, he's also dealing with injury concerns, so I don't even know about him. But for sure, Gabriel Diallo is a threat. He won the title, his first title in Hertogenbosch. And then Joao Fonseca, he's going to be unseeded once again, and then so will Cam Norrie. Now, Putintseva-Sakkari isn't the only beef I have to cover in this video, although this next one is pretty one-sided if you ask me. Nick Kyrgios is not happy that the BBC didn't ask him to return and join their commentary team, as revealed in an interview with Donald McRae of The Guardian. Kyrgios also took shots at 2023 quarterfinalist Chris Eubanks. He said, "It's unfortunate, but it's probably the BBC's loss more than it is mine. I understand they've gotten Chris Eubanks, but he hasn't beaten the greatest of all time multiple times. When someone's beaten Federer, Nadal, Murray, and Djokovic and has incredible insights, it's very strange you wouldn't want that person adding knowledge to tennis fans." Chris caught wind of these statements and he posted a funny 50 Cent meme where 50 says, "What'd he say F me for?" Eubanks then cleared the air and revealed that he wasn't even working with BBC for Wimbledon this year. This just makes Nick look even more foolish, to be honest, for name dropping Eubanks for no reason. And I just think that Nick is grappling with the fact that he's just not as sought after anymore. And he's not going to be able to coast off of being tennis's bad boy forever. Simple as that. Nick thought that he'd have that cozy commentating gig all locked up when his career was all said and done, and it's looking like his career is looking close to being all said and done as he's struggling still with all these injuries. But with the BBC not calling him back, even though he did do a good job last year, and then ESPN not wanting him either, like, I'm sure bro is crashing out a little bit now. This is not a good look for him. I mean, being objective, I am not the biggest Nick Kyrgios fan, but he does provide good insights in the booth whenever he does commentate. So I do think maybe he was, I guess, snubbed a little bit, but I think it was regardless wrong of him to come at Chris Eubanks, or at least mention him in that vein. So I think, honestly, he's getting his karma in a sense of not being called back. So I think maybe if he fixes his attitude, perhaps he'll get called back next year. I don't know. But anyways, looking at this week's upcoming tournaments, first we have another 500 tournament, our final 500 tournament of the grass season in Bad Homburg. And there, Jessica Pegula, Mira Andreeva, Jasmine Paolini, Emma Navarro, and Naomi Osaka will play. Osaka, she plays Olga Nedolovic today, so by the time I'm finished editing this video, low-key, she might not be still in the tournament anymore. But anyways, in Mallorca, in the 250 there, Ben Shelton, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Alex Mikkelsen, and Talon Griekspoor are the top 4 seeds. In the Eastbourne 250, Taylor Fritz, Tommy Paul, Jakub Mensik, and Ugo Humbert are the top 4 seeds. And in the women's field at Eastbourne, we have Daria Kisikina, Barbora Krejcikova, Yelena Ostapenko, Sofia Kenin, and Emma Raducanu in action. That's all I have for this grass court update. And let me know your thoughts on the Sakkari-Putintseva beef and whether you're Team Maria or Team Yulia. Also, give your thoughts on the action from this past week and what you think it means for Wimbledon. Do you think that Vondrousova will go deep once again at SW19 and maybe win a second title? And do you agree with me that Alcaraz will be the big favorite? I still think that it's going to be Alcaraz, maybe Djokovic's second favorite, and then center, but we definitely cannot overlook Jannik just because he lost early to Bublik, the eventual champion, in Halle. If anything, he's even more vindicated now that Bublik went on to win the title. Of course, make sure you all subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more videos ahead of Wimbledon. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I will see you all next time here on Christian's Court.